pink in the house on a Sunday afternoon at McCamish Pavilion. It is a play-for-K game. Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech meeting for the one and only time in the regular season. They played last year in Blacksburg. Virginia Tech won it over Georgia Tech. It's the Hokies and the Yellow Jackets. ACC College Hoops from Atlanta, Georgia. It is so great to have you with us for our game this afternoon in the ACC. Tom Wormy along with former Wake Forest standout LaChina Robinson. And LaChina for Georgia Tech, they have a freshman tandem unmatched in all of the country.
Yeah, not very many teams across the country are relying on their freshmen to carry them into the postseason. But Michelle Joseph told us that Elizabeth Balogun and Elizabeth Dixon are amongst two of the best to ever play at Georgia Tech.
Across the way for Virginia Tech, its experience in Reagan McGarity, the senior, the all-time leading rebounder in Hokie history.
Yes, for the Hokies, it has been that senior leadership, and especially Reagan McGarity. She is so tough on the interior. She brings a physical presence, but she can also stretch the floor with her outside shot. You will see her bring the ball down the floor as a point guard. Very versatile play, but it'll be her toughness against this physical Georgia Tech team that will mean more than anything. And Kenny Brooks also told us it's been her leadership in the huddles and in the locker room that has helped this team win 3 of their last 4.
McGarity is part of the Toyota starting lineups for the Virginia Tech Hokies. Taylor Emery also in that lineup, number 1 for the Hokies. Over 17 points per game for Emery, and that is 4th best in all of the ACC. Across the way for Georgia Tech, LaChina told you about the freshman players, the 2 Lizzes. And Balogun over 15 points per game, and that is best among freshmen in the ACC, although coming off a difficult game at Wake Forest for her, and that was a win Sunday at Wake Forest, 60-46, but Balogun only 3 points and 3 rebounds, 1 of 11 from the floor in that game for the freshman. Georgia Tech is in the pink. The Hokies wearing the black with the pink accent. And we're ready to go here in Atlanta, Georgia. McCamish Pavilion. A wonderful setting for women's college basketball in the ACC. Balogun, the off-balance shot, and she misses on that first possession for Georgia Tech. Hokies have the first points of the game. Shepard.
And Kenny Brooks has mixed up his starting lineup quite a bit in the last few games. You have to think that Shepard is in today because of the pressure that Georgia Tech presents defensively.
Virginia Tech has used 10 different starting lineups this season. Baptiste will pull that one down for the Hokies. She left without the basketball. Balogun too strong. Virginia Tech has won 3 of their last 4, as China mentioned. And 3, LaChina mentioned, and 3 in a row on the road in the ACC. That inside the McGarity, and she beats the D. Over 14 points per game for Reagan McGarity, the senior from Sweden for the Hokies. It's going to be a foul against Georgia Tech, and Balogun coming over the top. Kenny Brooks, third-year head coach. 17th overall as a head coach, and he's closing in on 400 career wins. He is 1-1 against Georgia Tech, and they are not scared to shoot that three-pointer.
And a head coach that's been very optimistic considering their start in ACC play because of the way they played in 3 of their last 4 wins and on the road, Tom, which has not been easy. It started at Pitt. But this is a team that's determined to finish strong. They had a lot of close losses early on in ACC season, but seem to be growing and maturing quite a bit. And as Kenny Brooks told us, getting more leadership.
They've made 224 three-pointers this season. They made 295 last season on 900 chances. Both of those were school records at Virginia Tech. Fletcher ducking under, can't convert on the shot.
Both teams are starting off in man-to-man defense, but you'll see Georgia Tech switch it up quite a bit. We talked to Michelle Joseph today at shoot-around. She said she has 12 different defenses, and she doesn't mind using all of them, wanting to confuse things for the Hokies.
Up ahead to Scott. Well defended by Mabry. Quick ball movement to Dixon, and she got fouled as Emery got a piece of her. Michelle Joseph, the head coach of the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, in her 16th season. She's got over 300 career victories. They like to turn over the opposition, second best in steals. And they've been to the women's NIT the last 4 years in a row. And that includes a trip to the finals in 2017 where they came up just short against Michigan. Triple overtime in the WNIT finals in 2017 for this Georgia Tech program.
And it's almost like starting over because they have 6 true freshmen, and we talked about 2 of them, but when your night to night relies heavily on first-year players, which you know can be a little inconsistent, that can be a challenge, and it's been up and down for Georgia Tech.
Held ball situation, the Hokies are going to maintain possession. As McGarity got tied up.
I mentioned Georgia Tech's defense, and one of the challenges for them is recognizing, for the Hokies, is recognizing what defense Georgia Tech is in, but having a freshman point guard in Mabry, she is going to have to really play a smart game and make sure she's moving the basketball against pressure.
Virginia Tech, 16-8 on the season, 3-8 in conference play. And 3-3 on the road in conference with the shot clock at 5 for Mabry. Emery from behind the line got fouled on the three-point attempt.
And this was the #1 concern for Michelle Joseph coming into this game is the three-point line. Virginia Tech, and right there, Emery catches. Good kick by Mabry. She's the one that actually draws the defense. And then that forces a big and Kubai to have to come out. And that's the thing. I mean, Virginia Tech can shoot the 3 at all 5 positions. So that's going to pull Georgia Tech out defensively. Their bigs have to be able to defend out there.
130 made threes on the season for Emery, and that leads the team. Dixon sidesteps her defender.
And what a great matchup that's going to be all afternoon. It's Dixon, the freshman, having to deal with McGarry, and them dealing with each other on opposite ends of the floor.
Dixon, who averages almost 11 points per game and 7 boards, and a traveling violation against the Hokies.
Reigning ACC Rookie of the Week. You see the catch, but look at the footwork, the ball fake, keeping it high. Dixon is a player that is just very efficient, and Georgia Tech has always needed consistent offense. As long as she stays out of foul trouble, she's a bucket around the rim.
They needed her at Wake Forest. She had 22 points, a game high, and she tied her season high, but the Hokies able to get it back. Dixon went 7 of 10 from the floor against Wake Forest. Mid-range miss from Baptiste. So Shepard comes out for the Hokies. Kendall Brooks is into the lineup. Alexis Jean also. Mabry got bumped on the inbounds play. She's a double-digit scorer for the Hokies. Over 12 points per game for Dara Mabry.
Kenny Brooks has gone to his bench, but he does not have the depth that Georgia Tech has, and the way they can wreak havoc with their energy on the glass and defensively. He's going to need his star rotation to really be effective.
Mabry misses, long rebound to McGarity. Mabry thinking about reloading. Jean. She misfires from three-point distance. She's only made 9 threes on the season. Results in a mid-range jumper for Georgia Tech, but Dixon's over the top of McGarity, and she picks up the foul.
And this is the key, because Georgia Tech is #1 in the ACC in offensive rebounding percentage. And Kenny Brooks told us we have to box out because they're going to be on our backs on the boards. They do such a good job there all night. And if he can get Georgia Tech into foul trouble and force some substitutions, that'll put Virginia Tech in an advantage.
Hokies won the matchup in late January in Blacksburg last year, 68-62. They went 8 of 29 from three-point distance and limited Georgia Tech to just 1 made 3 on 5 chances in that matchup a season ago between the teams.
A couple of zone possessions for Georgia Tech the last couple times down, and Virginia Tech was not able to knock it down. Now they're back in their man.
Number 10, Kendall Brooks. Three-point specialist as well. She's got 111 made threes on the season. Oldest daughter of Kenny. They'll go on the inside to Emery for an easy two.
And that's a good sign for Virginia Tech when Camp is in the game and can contribute. She has not been healthy, not quite the point guard we saw last season, but she's so quick off of the bounce, and if she can get into the paint, she's a very good decision maker there.
Pawn with the jumper. And Francesca Pawn, junior from Italy, averages 11.5 points per game.
See the trapping by Georgia Tech. Virginia Tech handles it well on that possession.
Jean offensive glass, and she traveled.
Well, the Hokies looking good early, up 5 with 10 points. And right here, a little sharing is caring.
In a Hokie uniform, and she is our Hardy's starter watch.
By far, one of the most underappreciated players in the ACC. You see those dominant numbers there, but looking at her last 5, she's in double figures the last 5 games, and 4 of the last 5 in double figure rebounds. She's found her consistency, and there's nothing more than consistency that a senior can give her team and her head coach. And Reagan McGarity is going to go hard every night. She has great work ethic and has just really been a lot of fun to watch.
Basket and foul for Georgia Tech on the inside. It was Scott fighting in there, and she got fouled and going to the line.
Well, you notice that Georgia Tech is attacking the rebounder. They are not getting back. They are going after the basketball. So Virginia Tech has to know that. Get your elbows out, protect the basketball, and keep the possession.
Shannon Scott, the junior from Charlotte, North Carolina, hits 65% from the free throw line, and she's got the old school three-point play.
Georgia Tech picking up in some full court pressure here.
Shepard for 3. McGarity in a congested area.
Really good wall of defense there by the Yellow Jackets.
And a three-pointer at the other end. Balogun, and she's into the box score with her first 3.
And that's also Balogun on the basketball. Take a look at how Balogun doesn't even look like she's going to shoot the ball. I mean, that's what makes her so special. It's effortless, the way that she can hit shots from the three-point line. 35 points in the game earlier in the year at North Carolina. 2 30-point performances, and those put her in unique company with Keisha Ford, who is one of the all-time greats from Georgia Tech, and also Nisha Butler. But Balogun is special. Balogun is special because she plays both sides of the floor.
Freshman from Chattanooga, Tennessee. 4-time ACC Rookie of the Week.
And I'm probably going to say her last name 5 different ways, so just go ahead. Fair warning for everyone. Balogun.
Balogun starts with B. Buckets also starts with B. And she's now has 55 made threes on the season for Balogun, and that is the best on the team with that three-pointer she made. She does have 2 personal fouls as we play in the first quarter, though.
Yeah, she got pulled early because of that foul trouble, but I don't think Georgia Tech can afford to leave her on the bench for too long.
Rachel Camp just came out deep into the shot clock, and Emery lost the handle beyond the baseline, and back to Georgia Tech wearing the pink uniforms today. It is a Play for Kay Sunday, and what a wonderful atmosphere to honor Coach Kay Yow. 34 years as the head coach at NC State, passed away in January of 2009, but her initiative continues and going strong against women's cancers.
And what a job as Shannon Scott knocks down the jumper. What a job the Kay Yow Cancer Fund has done. I mean, not only with the Play for Kay initiative, but the monies that have been donated for research. We heard the announcement, the $1 million going in honor of Kevin Durant's Aunt Pearl to Duke for cancer research. It's just tremendous. All the different ways that they find to impact this battle against cancer, women's cancers that we have all been touched by.
Dara Mabry just made her 61st 3 of the season. She leads the team in three-point makes. Mabry shoots 48% on the season from beyond the arc. That is second best in the entire nation. Scott tried to dump it low to Kubai. She was not ready. Miscommunication, and back to the Hokies. Tied at 13 in the first quarter. Emery. that is her first basket for the senior from Tampa, Florida. And a transfer from Tulane. Second season in the Virginia Tech program. Went over 1,000 points in the win at Duke. She had 13. It only took her 55 games to do it. Goodbye. Cut off by the defending McGarity. Shot clock is inside of 10. Balogun against two defenders came up short, and Emory has it. Baptiste right down Broadway, and the foul will go against Georgia Tech. Looked like Fletcher who got in the way, and she'll pick up the foul.
Right here, that's just Taylor Emory hitting a nice mid-range jump shot, which is really a good place on the floor for her. And that's the right call on the block, as Fletcher never established herself defensively, and there was illegal contact on the ball handler.
Baptiste, 84% from the free throw line for the sophomore from Tampa, Florida. First, we'll go to Greensboro for the ACC Women's Tournament. Then Tampa, Florida is the ultimate destination this season in women's basketball.
That's where you want to make it to.
With Notre Dame as the defending champs out of the ACC.
One of my favorite Final Four destinations. I think it actually is my favorite. And I think I've probably been to the last 17 Final Fours, so I've had my fair share.
Plenty of work to do for these teams and all of the programs in the ACC. Try to make it to that destination. We'll be in Greensboro first, though. 19th time Greensboro has hosted our fine ACC Women's Championship and Tournament. To crown a champ with Louisville as our defending champs. This one of 5 games on the ACC schedule on a Sunday afternoon. Shot clock is at 7. The shot was attempted by Pawn and defended by Shepard. And Baptiste picked up the foul for Virginia Tech. Her first. Jean will check back in for Kenny Brooks. Kenny Brooks was a great college player. Played at James Madison for Lefty Driesell. And then went on to great success as the women's head coach at James Madison.
Where he really had a dynasty. I mean, JMU every year in the CAA was battling and usually in position to win the championship, both regular season and tournament.
14 years as the head coach there. They went to the postseason 11 times, including 6 NCAA tournaments, but they turn it over. Up ahead, long pass. Balogun tries to run it down to the baseline and dribbled the basketball on the end line.
And Georgia Tech could really use some run-out baskets. Michelle Joseph was telling us today that their struggle has really been on the offensive end, you know, to score consistently, considering the fact that they've got freshmen that they're relying on. But if they can get some baskets off of their defense, just get right to the rim, they need to try to do that.
They've gone over 3 minutes without any points right now, and we're down to 26 seconds to go in our first quarter of play. 17-13, Hokies in front. Maggie Tiemann, Tom Donaher, and Kevin Sparrock are officials for this afternoon. 20 seconds to go. About a 6-second differential, game and shot. McGarity in tight, she's got it.
Virginia Tech gets the bottom of that zone out to the perimeter, and then that creates the mismatch on the inside with a post on a guard.
4 points now for McGarity in our first quarter. Closing moments. Paul let it fly for 3 for Georgia Tech. And she gives Georgia Tech the lead after the first quarter.
Nothing gives Francesca Pond confidence as well as her team. And when she's stroking it from 3, she had her mind made up. And that looks good to me, Tom Wormy. That's a big momentum shot for the Yellow Jackets to end the first quarter.
5 points for Pond, her first 3 of the game. Georgia Tech leads the Hokies. It is 19-16 for And Georgia Tech got a three-pointer from Francesca Pond right before the horn to close within 3. Although Virginia Tech did end the quarter on a 9-3 run. McCamish Pavilion, our site today. McGarity backing down. Little follow away. Scott brings it up for Georgia Tech. In the pink uniforms, we play for Kay and honor Kay Yow today on a Sunday in Atlanta. Around the screen, it rolls out. Lockton had a chance. It just spun out. And then she committed the foul.
And those are the baskets you have to make if you're Georgia Tech. I mean, you're struggling from the field, shooting 33% overall. It did help them to knock down a couple of threes as the quarter went on. They were 2 for 4, but you got to get those easy ones. And good job by Virginia Tech breaking the press.
Coming off that win Thursday at Duke, 64-57. They had not won at Duke since November of 1998. And that 98-99 season for Virginia Tech, one of the best in school history, they made it to the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament back in '99. Long rebound, Kubai and Brooks. And the arrow will favor Georgia Tech on the help ball.
Well, Taylor Emery is offense waiting to happen, especially if you can draw defenders and get her open looks. She just has struggled in shooting the ball some this season, but this is just her versatility. The mid-range game, she can shoot it from outside, can also get to the basket. I mean, she and Reagan McGarity are two of my favorite players in the country to watch because of their offensive skill set and how easy they make the game look sometimes.
Offensive foul against Fletcher, backing in on Mabry.
And this is a matchup that Georgia Tech wanted to exploit in this game. It's Fletcher on Mabry. She has a size advantage in the post. Mabry does a good job there absorbing the contact. But Fletcher going out is big for Georgia Tech because they rely on her at that point guard position to really run the show.
That pass goes out of bounds and back to Georgia Tech. Coach Brooks told us this would be a contrast in styles. Georgia Tech likes to work it on the interior. Virginia Tech will shoot that three-pointer, and they shoot it for a solid percentage. Second best in the conference, 38% from beyond the arc. Dixon spinning and scoring.
Beautiful high-low execution from Pond into Dixon.
It's 5 points now for Dixon.
And the good thing for Georgia Tech is they've been able to set up their defense, and here comes Mabry with a much-needed basket for the Hokies.
A 2-point basket for Mabry. She's got 5 points.
Well, Pond does a good job of posting up and getting that catch in the high post, and then she just turns, and I don't know how Dixon is able to keep her balance because she was spinning around like a ballerina on the low block.
Looking for the position in the basketball, demanding it against McGarity, and it's Dixon off the square.
Not intimidated.
Dixon with 7 points. Right now she leads the way for Georgia Tech. Scott has 5. Pond also has 5. Here's a steal. Lahtinen. Mabry hustling back. May have deflected that basketball. Back to Lahtinen. Pond lets it fly for 3, and she banks it in. Francesca Pond, 8 points. Molto bene for the Italian player. She wants another one. Emery has the rebound, and then there was a whistle.
And Georgia Tech's offense starting to heat up. First, Dixon, who is just owning the matchup with McGarity in this game, only a freshman. And then Francesca Pond, she doesn't need much time. And how about the bank shot on a Sunday, Tom Wormy? And I'll tell you this about Pond. It has been an up and down year for her. It's been different having other very offensively skilled players in the freshman class on the team. She's not touching the ball as much and has struggled to get into her shooting rhythm. But she hit 3 straight three-pointers at Wake Forest Forrest, and you saw something change. I think she has finally found her confidence in that three.
Had 15 points in the game against Wake. That pass deflected away and taken back by Georgia Tech. Goodbye. Spinning in the paint, and she hits.
Michelle Joseph told her team at shoot-around today that Virginia Tech does not double the post. So you will get one-on-one opportunities on the inside. Go to work.
Kubai and Pawn, the Italian duo, in pink today. Well defended. Here comes Pawn. Fancy dribble around Shepard. Baseline look, but a turnover.
We're going to look at Georgia Tech's offense here, but this whole run has been spurred by their defense. Kubai might have got away with a little bit of travel there. Keeps the ball high, though. And it's kind of unintentional double. They didn't mean to. They don't really bring two defenders in that situation, but Virginia Tech happened to have two players, but Kubai puts it in anyway.
Could be a big basket for Kubai, who was 0 for 4 from the floor and did not score in the win at Wake Forest for Georgia Tech. Kubai in the post.
And they are doubling some now in the post.
Scott the runner. Foul in the act of shooting.
So we see the adjustment by Kenny Brooks. They are starting to double now because Georgia Tech has been hurting them in the low block.
Second foul on Baptiste for the Hokies.
I also want to give Lahtinen, since she's come into the game, she has been a catalyst on the defensive end and has given Georgia Tech a punch. Fletcher goes to the bench, but Lahtinen, with her energy, has been effective.
So McGarity comes out of the game for Virginia Tech. Despite the miss, 8 points, 4 rebounds at Wake Forest for Shannon Scott. And 16 minutes off the bench in their most recent game for the Jackets. Emery out of bounds, and it stays at that end of the floor for the Hokies. Mabry on the inbounds. Fight on the weak side, Balagoon. Quick passing. Carson.
Who just checked in the game. This offensive energy for Georgia Tech is contagious. Everyone in the game, including Carson, hitting shots.
It was somebody that she could have felt sorry for herself and had a tremendous amount of pity for herself, but she never did. And, she was always giving back to the ACC, to the games, to her coaching, the other coaches, and to her players, no matter how she felt. And I hope that we can be a part of helping that legacy continue, and also to inspire other people that are facing those same challenges.
Wonderful comments from the head coach of the Yellow Jackets, Michelle Joseph, as Emery hits a three-pointer. She's up to 11 points, and that's just the second made field goal of the quarter for the Hokies.
Well, Coach Yao's battle against cancer is by far the most courageous battle I've had the opportunity to watch as Balagoon knocks down that shot. But the way she continued to coach and inspire not only her team, but so many of us across the country, despite all that she was going through with her health, is just, never seen anything like it. And obviously the ACC and women's basketball have been deeply affected and inspired by what Coach Yao brought to the game, and everyone wants to give back.
4 times Coach Yao and her team won that ACC tournament championship, and 20 times to the NCAA tournament. So each team has hit a 3 since coming out of the break. Weak side Balagoon. And a miss from Shepard. Kept alive by the Hokies. Another chance. That was deflected.
Balogun turned it over, but stayed with the play and is able to get it back. What we've seen the last few possessions defensively from Georgia Tech is they're scrambling, and Virginia Tech has been getting some good looks at three. And it's really going to come down to their ability to beat that pressure, move the basketball, and knock down their shots, their open three-point looks.
6 of 10 shooting for Georgia Tech in the second quarter. Kubai on the block against Baptiste. That rolls off. Garrity had it for a moment. Balogun was there as well. It goes out of bounds, and it will be Virginia Tech basketball. So glad that you're with us today for ACC women's basketball on a Sunday in Atlanta, Georgia. Tom Wormy, LaChina Robinson, the former standout at Wake Forest. Look at another game coming up right behind us. Doubleheader here on your regional sports network of ACC college hoops. The floater from Mabry with the touch. 7 points now for Mabry. Virginia at North Carolina coming up behind us. Mabry, free pass to the bucket. Can't lay it in. Emery is there. She got fouled, and she's going to the free throw line. Virginia, North Carolina after us, and here are those standings in the ACC as we approach tournament time in Greensboro in early March.
With this in mind, what a big matchup today between Miami and Louisville. Katie Meyer has her team playing great basketball. Beatrice Mompremier, if you do not know that name, you should. But she has had an outstanding season. Newcomer to the ACC, transfer from Baylor. That'll be a fun matchup, especially if she and Sam Fury get matched up together. I don't know. There's a lot of toughness in that matchup.
Louisville's 10-1 in conference play. Miami 9-2. And then you follow that up on Monday. Notre Dame is at NC State. So some fantastic matchups to be played the next couple days of the ACC. Just over 3 minutes to go in our second quarter. Georgia Tech has gone in front. Fletcher down the lane. Decides otherwise with the shot clock at 10.
Georgia Tech has not been able to free up Francesca Pond for any shots.
Quick release from Pond. Kubai tried to go over the top of McGarity, but the Hokies come away with it. Rachel Camp in there, number 23 in black. Emery trying to get by Carson. Foul is called. It will be against Jasmine Carson. Her first for the freshman. Carson came into the game earlier and promptly knocked down a three-pointer for Georgia Tech. Here's Emery at the free throw line, 13 points.
One thing I will say about this Virginia Tech team is they are much better than their ACC record may indicate. I mean, I came into the season, ACC season, with them ranked in my top 25, and boy, the number of close games, losses, to start conference, and they had a very tough schedule. Kind of took the wind out of their sails, took their confidence away, but we're starting to see what they're capable of with the toughness they've showed in recent games on the road.
Fletcher, mid-range. No problem. So Fletcher down with her first 2 points of the game. Mabry gets the help from Rachel Camp.
Good to see Camp. She was on the bottom of that pile a moment ago, had to come out of the game. She has been fighting injury all season, so looks to be okay. That's a good sign for Kay Brooks.
First bucket for Camp, and at the other end, it's Kubai. Basket and foul, and to the line for Kubai.
There's got to be more of that from Lorella Kubai, but first from Virginia Tech, Mabry has done a good job of penetrating and making the right decision in those situations. And then, again, the one-on-one matchup. Boy, Georgia Tech has tried to wear Reagan McGarity out. They have gone at her with posts. They've got a lot of depth at that position, but Kubai is a player that should dominate. Every night should be a double-double.
Scott got the miss from the line by Kubai, and she cashes in. Shannon Scott with 8 points in the first half. Garrity gave it up. The corner three from Brooks. Long rebound to Kubai from Terni, Italy. And the leading rebounder on this team this season, averaging 7 boards per game.
She has all the physical tools. She just sometimes shies away from the contact. You wouldn't think that because she's so aggressive.
Balogun was fouled on the shot attempt and just beyond the free throw line. First on Shepard. .69% as a team for Georgia Tech from the free throw line this season, 9th in the ACC. Leading freshman scorer in the conference, Elizabeth Balogun, 7 points in our first half of play. Near steal. Scott working in the backcourt against the Hokies, who break the pressure. Entry pass, McGarity, and she traveled.
Opened up our show talking about Reagan McGarity and how well she has played. Well, she has had a limited impact on this game, and I feel like a lot of it is because of how often Georgia Tech has gone after her defensively. They have made her have to work every time down the floor.
4 points so far for McGarity. The Hokies have turned it over 11 times in the first half. Georgia Tech just 7. Balogun with some momentum to the rim, and she scores 9 points. First half, Balogun deflected up ahead, Kubai. Scott was not ready for the pass. Balogun was. Pawn lines up a 3. That'll go over top of backboard.
Balogun showing her quickness off of the bounce, and how about that finish? Got a little airtime there in paint. I'm impressed by this young woman. I mean, you mentioned it, Tom, #1 scoring freshman in the ACC, but one of the best freshmen in the country.
Virginia Tech 3 of 10 so far from beyond the arc. You always keep an eye on that category when you talk about the Hokies. And now down to 17 seconds, only about a 3-second difference shot in the game. Long entry pass to McGarity, tough to catch, and Emery came flying in. There was a traveling call prior to Emery hitting the deck. So Emery trying to shake off the after effects of that contact.
And it looked like the officials may have been signaling for that travel before the contact.
McGarity was trying to catch that long entry pass, and they called a traveling violation. 3 straight turnovers on the last 3 possessions for Virginia Tech. Only 4 seconds. Fletcher on the jumper. It will not be a shot as Mabry pulls it in. First quarter complete. First half rather complete. And Georgia Tech. Yellow Jackets in the pink. They'll have the ball to start our second half. Elizabeth Balogun was the leading scorer with 9 points, followed by Francesca Pawn, who had 8. Also, Shannon Scott had 8 points for the Yellow Jackets. Goes out of bounds and will stay with Georgia Tech. Kubai also had 4 points in that first half. Yellow Jackets wearing the pink uniforms on a Sunday afternoon in Atlanta as we play for Kay and honor NC State head coach Kay Yow. Kubai. Dixon turnaround against McGarity, and Dixon wins it. 9 points for Dixon. McGarity difficult shot in traffic. Kubai held her ground, got the ball back, but then traveled, and Hokies will keep it.
Reigning ACC Rookie of the Week, Elizabeth Dixon, picking up right where she left off. A little help there from Baptiste, but not enough with the elevation on that turnaround jump shot from Elizabeth Dixon.
So Dixon's 9 points, just below her season average of 10.8 per game. Hokies with the basketball. Mabry trying to get it to McGarity. She did. Basket and foul. Reagan McGarity to the free throw line for the Hokies.
And this is something that Virginia Tech needs to look for more often, is that mismatch with Reagan McGarity when she has a guard on her right here on the switch. She has Balogun on her, which is a costly foul for Georgia Tech as well. But I feel like Reagan McGarity needs to be more involved in the offense. Only 4 points in the first half.
McGarity cannot complete the three-point play. At the other end, Kubai able to pick it up, put it back up on the rim and score. Lorella Kubai with 6 points. Just below her season average of 6.8 per game for Georgia Tech. Baptiste. A lot of dribbling and a fall away. Fletcher had it for a moment. Bounces on the end line. It'll stay with Virginia Tech. McGarity on the drive off the backboard and good.
You can see Virginia Tech looking to go to their senior and Reagan McGarity in this situation. Let her set the tone here in the third quarter and get some confidence in her offense.
McGarity's got 15 double-doubles on the season, 48 for her career at Virginia Tech, and that is a school record. She tipped that one to Mabry off the Georgia Tech miss. Mabry carving her way. Camp with the miss at one end. McGarity tips it away at the other, right to Dixon. She can't control it. It goes out of bounds. Georgia Tech basketball. Off the inbounds, Kubai to Dixon. And Dixon has hit double digits with 11 points. 16th time she's done that this season. Out of bounds and back to Georgia Tech.
Costly turnover there by Virginia Tech, but look at the post-to-post work here on the out of bounds. Both the bigs for Georgia Tech posting up hard. That's a difficult set to guard when they have already got position on the interior. Then the sharing from Kubai to Dixon for the finish.
The 12-point lead is the largest of the game for Georgia Tech on the entry. Dixon had Camp behind her, McGarity in front, and Camp got whistled for the personal foul.
And this is a small lineup on the floor for Virginia Tech, which is another reason why Georgia Tech is looking to go inside here intently early on.
Dixon the miss. Balogun gets it back for a fresh shot clock. Fletcher looks over at Michelle Joseph in the pink suit today as we celebrate Kay Yow and the fight against women's cancers. Dixon offensive glass. She's there for the putback. Mabry. Kubai was reaching in.
There's just a lot of work by Georgia Tech. You can see the size advantage against the small matchup with both Dixon and Kubai. Relentless. And again, keep in mind that Georgia Tech's #1 in the ACC for offensive rebounding percentage.
So Dixon comes out of the game with 13 points. She leads Georgia Tech in scoring. Emory has 14 for Virginia Tech. And that last foul was on Balogun. That's her third personal. Tries to challenge the Mabry shot and did alter the trajectory of that shot. Tried to run the floor. The pass was too much from Fletcher to Balogun.
And if you look at the turnover battle, Georgia Tech actually has more turnovers than Virginia Tech, but they have more points off of Virginia Tech's turnovers. They've got 22. Virginia Tech has only capitalized getting 14 points from Georgia Tech miscues.
Mabry teeing up the three. That misses the intended target. Shannon Scott comes away with it for Georgia Tech. Yellow Jackets lead the overall series 10-6 rather, as they meet for the 17th time. Turnaround from Kubai.
Yeah, if you're Kubai, you got to take that as a message. If Virginia Tech is going to guard you with a guard in the post, and you're that big and strong, you have to get the ball in the low block and go to work. And that's what Kubai does here, showing a lot of strength. Ooh, hook shot.
Recently elected to the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. And she has just done so much to impact so many lives in and around the game. And she is in attendance today. She's listening to our broadcast. We say hello and congratulations to Nora Lynn Finch, a friend of everyone she meets. And she is retiring from her position with the ACC following the conclusion of this year. And perhaps our tournament will be the best ever in Greensboro this year as Nora Lynn retires from the ACC.
Yeah, I was thinking about all the different stops in my life that Nora Lynn has impacted. First of all, as a student athlete at Wake Forest, having the opportunity to earn a scholarship, thinking about the work that Nora Lynn did in women's basketball pre-Title IX on through. And so as a player, then I was an intern at the ACC when she's an administrator at NC State, got to learn from her in that capacity. And then even what I'm doing now in television, as Nora Lynn continues to just have an impact on the opportunities we have in television for women, how our game is covered, the rules, just every aspect of women's college basketball. She's a part of its growth. So we're just so grateful for her and happy that she's a part of the ACC.
Yeah, we thank her so much for all that she's done, and congratulations on her election to the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. Virginia Tech trying to make this a ball game as they've got possession now with 5:11 to go in our third quarter. They trailed by 10 at halftime.
And a little known fact, I don't know how many people know this, Nora Lynn actually was a coach at Wake Forest, my alma mater. So we talk a lot about that NC State Wake Forest connection and
first 2 years
rivalry
of the Wake program.
Yeah.
She was the head coach.
And the foundation.
53-37, Georgia Tech, after Virginia Tech had a 3-point lead at the conclusion of our first quarter. Emery was able to create some daylight. McGarity offensive glass for the Hokies.
Different third quarter for McGarity than we saw in the first half of the game, but really the problem for Virginia Tech right now is they are not able to get comfortable offensively, and you've got to credit Georgia Tech in the way they have been relentless with their defensive attack, bringing lots of pressure, forcing turnovers, and how about another bank? It's got to be a record for bank threes.
Second time that Pawn has banked one in from long distance, and she's got 11 points. A foul will stop play, but it's Francesca Pawn using the backboard.
You know, the bank shot is usually a surprise, but for Tay, Pawn says, that is my shot, and Coach Joseph loving it. As long as it goes.
Our host on a Sunday afternoon in ACC Women's College Hoops with the Yellow Jackets. Extending their lead to 17. It's the largest of the ball game. Hokies in black with the basketball. Emery. Fight for the loose ball. It's taken back by McGarity. Another chance for the Hokies. Shooting 37% in the game as a team. That one deflected.
I was looking at the numbers from three-point land, and Virginia Tech in league play, turnover there by Tech, but Virginia Tech averages 9 3-pointers a game in ACC play. They only have 3, where Georgia Tech averages 5 threes a game, and they've got 6, so they've already got more than what they average on the season. And you know, Virginia Tech shoots the 3. That's what they do. But credit Georgia Tech, who has been able to keep them at bay from a three-point line, even in the zone. Even when they've played zone, they've been able to recover well and defend the three-point shot.
Hokies have missed their last 6 three-point shot attempts. Shot clock at 4. McGarity, that's a 3.
She stepped up. She has stepped up big time for this team in the third quarter.
How about their first 3 since the 4:56 mark of the second quarter, and 13 points. Reagan McGarity go along with 7 rebounds. Georgia Tech tried to come back with a 3, and Hokies have the basketball with Baptiste. Emery is the leading scorer for the Hokies. She's got 16 points on 5 of 12 from the floor. McGarity tries the other side, of the result is the same. Back-to-back threes, Reagan McGarity, and 16 points. The lead down to 11. It was 10 at halftime for the Yellow Jackets. Dixon tried to save it right to Emery. Baptiste just inside the free throw line. Can't get it to fall, and Pawn comes down with it. Scott gliding to the rim. Just the 5th time this season that Shannon Scott has gotten to double digits. Emery puts it on the floor and then hits the jumper.
Now you can see the offense opening up for Virginia Tech, but it started with Reagan McGarity, who has given her team an offensive punch right when they needed it on the road.
18 points now for Taylor Emery. That leads all scorers in our game this afternoon. Balagoon for 3. Pawn flipped it right back to Stodica, blocked from behind by McGarity.
Kenny Brooks told us that he would need his upperclassmen, need his experience to show up on the road. Reagan McGarity in this third quarter is showing us what leadership looks like, knocking down big shots when her team is struggling to score, then Emery doing the same thing. And again, that's a form of leadership. You know, when you see your team is just not really in a rhythm and stepping up and making some big plays.
McGarity with 3-pointers, number 16 and 17 on the season. Critical buckets for the Hokies. Tried to get the pass back from Shepard. Went out of bounds. It'll stay with the Hokies.
And you knew that Georgia Tech would come into this game with a big emphasis on McGarity. You see first half versus second, but because of the damage that she did against the Duke Blue Devils.
A 3 goes halfway down and out for Brooks. Just over a minute to play in the third quarter. McGarity had 22 points and 18 rebounds to tie a career high in that game against Duke. And the China just referenced that you just pulled down another board. Baptiste is going to pick up the foul for the Hokies.
Right idea. I know what Baptiste was trying to do was get her shooter open, but illegal contact, and that ball will go back to Georgia Tech.
Final 50 seconds of our third quarter. Fast-paced action between Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech. Balagoon for 3. Tapped around. Scott tries to save it. McGarity grabs it. Emery bringing it up. Going against Pawn, who blocked it out of bounds.
Taylor Emery just looking to attack, but Pawn using her length there to contest that shot.
Quick Hokie play on the inbounds, and a foul is called. 24.7 seconds to go in our third quarter. So Balagoon picked up her 4th personal foul.
Big. And not necessarily because of her offensive attack, because we've seen balance for Georgia Tech, but her defense, she and Shannon Scott on the front of that press have been a nightmare for the Hokies.
So at one point in this third quarter, Georgia Tech had a 17-point lead. But now Balagoon has to come out of the game with 4 personals, and Emery's at the free throw line, looking for point number 20 on the afternoon. 11th time this season, Emory's had 20 or more points in a game. 15 seconds to go in our third quarter. Virginia Tech in the midst of the 10-2 run to cut the lead to single digits. Pawn has to turn and shoot. And the clock will run out in the third quarter. And the Hokies are back in this ball game. 58-49, the fourth quarter from McCamish Pavilion. Straight ahead.
Fourth quarter, because Georgia Tech has gotten more depth down the bench, and so they have a little more energy in a fourth quarter in a game that's been physical and very fast moving.
Shannon Scott responsible for 10 points coming off that Georgia Tech bench. Hokies with the ball. Shepard for three. McGarity on the glass. It was blocked out of bounds by Dixon. Reagan McGarity's got another double-double. McGarity in the game. 16 points, 10 rebounds. Early stages of the fourth quarter. 16th double-double of the season for McGarity. 21 on the shot clock. Plenty of time. In fact, it'll reset to 30.
We'll see Virginia Tech do this sometimes with Shepard. We know that she's capable of having big fourth quarters. But she's so quick off the bounce. You know, they just give her the ball and let her try to penetrate, either to get something at the rim or try to create for her teammates.
There was a foul on Fletcher on the play to put Shepard at the free throw line. Third on Fletcher.
Virginia Tech, a very good free throw shooting team on most nights. And with Georgia Tech being so physical, that could possibly come into play down the stretch of this game.
This is Pawn for three. Francesca Pawn at 14 points. Four made threes in the game for Pawn. Baptiste, the cutter to the rim. Baptiste with 4 points. Dixon on the block. McGarity helps with the double team. Stolen away by McGarity. Georgia Tech led by as many as 17 in that third quarter, after leading by 10 at halftime. Mabry trying to get by Pawn. Kubai came over with the help defense. Fletcher had it for a moment. McGarity took it back. Here's Emory, and she hits.
That play was created by the relentlessness of Reagan McGarity, not giving up on the play.
22 points for Taylor Emory. Above her season average of 17.3, fourth best in the ACC. Pawn, another three. 17 points and 5 made threes on 11 chances beyond the arc for Pawn. Kubai trying to box out McGarity, and a foul goes against the Hokies, and it's on McGarity.
We're seeing this game being taken over by two players. One, Reagan McGarity. What a hustle play to Taylor Emory, who has been a bucket this afternoon, 7 for 15 from the field. And then Francesca Pawn with now 5 3-pointers. And Tom, she had not hit 4 or more 3-pointers since December 2nd. This is a big game for her confidence from long range.
The 5 threes ties her career high for threes made in a single game. And Pawn up to 17 points on 6 of 14 shooting. And there is a 3-second violation. That was Kubai trying to work in the paint. Coach Joseph wants an explanation. It's a brief one. The team in front, 64-55. And a foul against Georgia Tech. First on Scott. Georgia Tech looking for its third straight victory. After a win at Wake Forest, they also won at home on February 7th against Pittsburgh, 67-55. Had a big win on January 20th against then number 12 Syracuse by 10. Right here at McCamish Pavilion. Shepherd for three, front rim.
Boy, Shepherd has gotten some good looks, and what you keep hearing Virginia Tech's coaching staff say is get the ball to the middle of the floor. You don't want to be on the sideline against that Georgia Tech pressure, and that's where you get in trouble. But open looks as this game starts to expire. Got to knock those down.
Shepherd is 0 for 5 from beyond the arc in the game. And Virginia Tech as a team, 5 of 21 on three-point attempts. Lautinen came in to get the basketball. She had it, but then traveled. The lead is 9 for Georgia Tech. Emory leads all scorers with her 22. McGarity kicked it out to Brooks for three. And McGarity and Fletcher were fighting for the loose ball.
Balogun will come back in the game. Notice that Virginia Tech has gone on that run. And much of it while she has been out. She'll come back in with those 4 fouls. And the Dixon will check in as well.
Lautinen comes out for Georgia Tech. McGarity picked up that last foul. It's her third personal. Georgia Tech shooting 47% from three-point real estate. 8 of 17 in the game. 5 of those belong to Francesca Pond. Pond, the junior from Bassano del Grappa, Italy. On the glass, McGarity and Kubai is there as well. And that foul's going against Kubai. Fellow Italian player, Opon.
Balogun has to be careful because with those 4 fouls, even on the offensive end, she's got to watch for players trying to take charges. She looked like she might have pushed off a little on that last one.
So Virginia Tech, today, just 5 of 22. Their three-point attempts, normally, prior to today, second best in the conference, 38% as a team. And they've made 224 threes prior to today. Emory to the free throw line. Baptiste. Pond also there. And a foul against Georgia Tech, and it's going to be Pond. Third on Pond. Keep in mind, Virginia Tech as a team, which are the best free throw shooting team in the conference, 80% of the season. Today they're 10 of 12. Baptiste has made all 3 of her free throws. Just inside 6 minutes to go in regulation. And it's a 7-point game. Virginia Tech fighting back from 17 down in the third. Balogun too strong from the corner. It was Brooks and Kubai fighting for the loose ball, out of bounds, and Georgia Tech basketball. They look for Dixon. McGarity deflected it right to Pond, and she scores. "19 points for Pond. Well above her season average of 11.5 points per game. And a huge bucket on the offensive glass for Georgia Tech. Shot clock at 7. Brooks gave it up. McGarity needs to shoot and makes it. The officials want to take a peek at this. The shot clock was winding down for McGarity. Right now, it's a three-point basket for McGarity. Two issues here. Did she get it away in time, and was she behind the three-point line?
It looked like she got the shot off in time and was behind the three-point line from that last replay that we saw.
Definitely behind the line.
Have yourself a second half, Reagan McGarity. Catches the ball here, takes one dribble, and you could kind of see the one still on the clock turning to a 0 on the shot clock. Her feet are definitely behind three, so that's a three-point shot. I think it's also clearly counted, and the officials agree.
You know, Kevin Sparrick gives us the indication that that is a three from McGarity, who's made all three of her three-point chances in the game. Came in making just 15 so far in the season from the three-point land.
Take a look at what Reagan McGarity has done this afternoon. Not a lot in the first half, but in the second half of this game, boy, she has been everywhere. In the low block, off of the drive, really being physical. Elizabeth Dixon was getting the best of that matchup early, but also stretching the floor. And here goes Virginia Tech with more momentum as Taylor Embry got the steal, short of the shot.
Baptiste tried to save, but it's going to be Georgia Tech basketball. Hokies and Jackets to the wire. That one. Check your local listings for that game in your area as we get a peek at the standings in the ACC.
Yeah, this is an important game for North Carolina. I mean, you see 6 ranked teams at the top of the ACC, but North Carolina just needs to get their momentum back. They have lost 2 of their last 3 to Duke and Pitt. You may not have seen that happening on paper leading up to that game because they had the big win over Notre Dame and then at NC State to give them their first loss of the season. But as Paris Key goes, North Carolina goes.
This is Pawn in traffic. And 3 players went to the deck, and there was a collision there. Baptiste got the worst of it for the Hokies as a couple of players slid into one another near the free throw line. Everybody seems to be okay, which is great news. Georgia Tech in possession of the ball. 4:22 to go. Just 5 on the shot clock. Fletcher against Mabry. Needs to shoot it. Got it away. McGarity's got another rebound. 13th of the game. After 22 points and 18 boards in the win at Duke for Virginia Tech. .22 points for Taylor Embry, leading all scorers. Inside of 10 of the shot clock for McGarity. Fenced off on the baseline by Kubai. Mabry fires away deep in the shot clock, and Kubai has the board.
We've seen a few of those for Virginia Tech. Either go halfway down and come out. You know, Shepard's struggling from long range. Mabry misses that one. Brooks is usually a knockdown. She's had some that were very close.
And Mabry's just 1 for 5 from three-point distance, and Brooks has missed all 5 of her three-point attempts.
And the way that Georgia Tech is able to do that to teams sometimes is to get them to play so fast with their pressure that they're putting up those threes quickly. And sometimes they've used so much energy just to even get up the floor that the legs are not there on the three. I mean, Mabry is second in conference games in three-point field goal percentage. Excuse me, 4th. That's her sister, that's second. The other Mabry.
So that was a hell ball, and the arrow favors the Hokies. Teams haven't played here in Atlanta since February of 2017, and a win for Georgia Tech, 87-81. Yellow Jackets have won 4 of the last 5 between the teams. Hokies won it last year in Blacksburg. McGarity has to send it back out. Three-pointer is good for Mabry. Her second three of the ball game. Double digits for Mabry and 10 points. And it's a three-point game. It's going to be Brooks on the foul.
And what a play here. Virginia Tech gets the ball to the middle of the floor to McGarity on the kick out. Mabry is ready to shoot it from well behind the three-point line.
7 of 25 as a team in the game for Virginia Tech on three-point attempts. They get it to Fletcher. Mabry deflected it. It is off of Mabry.
Virginia Tech stepping up their defensive pressure here.
They have fought so hard to get back into this game after trailing by 17 points in the third quarter. Fletcher on the run against two defenders. And Fletcher's going to the line.
One thing about Fletcher we've seen this afternoon is, teams know that she's not a big scorer. She's a great rebounder from the perimeter, runs the team at the point guard spot, is actually not a true point guard, which is one of the reasons why Michelle Joseph said she sometimes struggles. But even though she's missed quite a few shots, she hasn't been afraid to take them and try to keep the defense honest in those situations.
Fletcher, an all-ACC freshman team selection a season ago. 72% of the year from the line for Fletcher. That last foul was also on McGarity and her fourth.
And that's a big foul.
67-63. 4 fouls for McGarity, 19 points and 13 rebounds. McGarity into the corner, Emery. McGarity, Brooks for three. And a whistle, and the fouls against the Hokies. So the fourth on Baptiste, and that will result in free throws for Georgia Tech. 5 of 10 as a team from the line. Baptiste 6 points in the game, but just 1 of 7 shooting. Balagoon 1 of 2 from the line of the game. Five players into double digits for Georgia Tech after that free throw from Balagoon. 1 of 2. McGarity's got her 14th board. Approaching 2 minutes remaining in the ballgame. 68-63. Georgia Tech in front. Emery on the drive. Denied by Kubai. McGarity for three. Emery and Baptiste trying to save it. It's out of bounds. And 2, the Ramblin' Wreck.
Another one just in and out. And by our calculations, Reagan McGarity has played just about every minute of this game. And you got to think about legs late in a game like this, where you've had a short rotation on the three-point shot. Sometimes it's just a little short.
And that was her first miss from 3 in the game. She had made her previous 3 attempts. Scott goes around the edge. McGarity is in waiting and blocks it. And she's got those 4 personal fouls. McGarity has 3 blocks in the game today as well. Did not beat the count. So the ball back to the Hokies with 1:29 to go.
And that's a big stop for Virginia Tech. 5-second call there.
Now Georgia Tech does have its full complement of timeouts as we play late in the fourth.
I think Fletcher thought she was going to be able to get it in. And I wasn't looking at Michelle Joseph.
Emery. Kendall Brooks. McGarity and Pawn out of bounds in Georgia Tech basketball. Once again, McGarity playing with 4 personals. Kendall Brooks now is 0 for 7 from 3. And Brooks is one of 3 players on this team with 100 or more career-made threes. Don't forget, right behind us, more women's basketball in the ACC. Virginia at North Carolina. Jen Hildreth and Kelly Dale standing by with the call of that one. Five-point game, 1:05 to go. And now we're inside of a minute. Shot clock is at 5 for Pawn. Let it fly. And a foul on the shot attempt by Pawn with 49.9 seconds on the clock.
Costly foul there on the jump shot. Take a look. And it would look like the body on the way down by Mabry.
So it should be 3 free throws coming up for Pawn. The officials want to make sure of it, though. So we're going to review, and just to make sure that Pawn was behind the line, but based on the replays that we've already seen, should be 3 free throws. And if that indeed qualifies as a review, it was quite brief.
Just a quick meeting.
And it will be 3 free throws. Okay. We've gotten to the bottom of that. Pawn, one of the best free throw shooters on the team. 81% of the season. She's got 20 points in the game. These are her first free throws of the afternoon. You get the thought you could stand there all day and make them. 3 free throws from Francesca Pawn. That gap to 3 points at 66-63, but now the Hokies have to put the Yellow Jackets on the free throw line late in this one. Pawn has tied her season high with 22 points. She is one of 5 players in double digits. And Pawn, for the 3rd time, 20 points or more in a season, with Fletcher at the free throw line for Georgia Tech. Here's what's coming up for Kenny Brooks and Virginia Tech. Home against Miami, which has a big game today as well, and then traveling to Clemson, which has been an incredible surprise this season under Amanda Butler, first-year head coach for the Tigers.
Yeah, fun to watch. One of the big storylines across the country.
8 ACC wins for the Tigers.
Amanda Butler, always known for her intensity, and she has brought that work ethic and that tenacity to Clemson with her. And this is the remaining schedule for Georgia Tech. They take on that same Clemson team at Virginia, at Miami, and then Florida State to end the regular season here at home. Now, Georgia Tech only has 1 true senior. She doesn't really play that much. It's usually the senior night at home that you get a magical win.
How about Janelle Bailey for North Carolina as they'll take on Virginia right after us?
Yeah, again, I think this is a big game for Sylvia Hatchell's team. I mean, once you start knocking off big teams, you've got the bullseye on your back. And so the ACC has challenged the Tar Heels. And again, I think as solid as Janelle Bailey is on the low block, it's really Paris Key that dictates what happens with that team. And they will need her leadership again today.
Bailey is 5th in the conference in scoring as North Carolina and Virginia meet. Jen Hildreth, Kelly Dale standing by. 40.1 seconds to go in regulation here. Georgia Tech is on a 6-0 run, and they've all been converted free throws. Told you that Virginia Tech closed the lead to just 3 after fighting back from 17 down. Hokies need some magic now. Intense defense from Georgia Tech. 30 seconds to go in regulation. A miss from Mabry. The immediate timeout by the Yellow Jackets, up 72-63. So we're going to take this one right down to the final seconds. We told you that Miami has a big game at number 2 Louisville. Well, Notre Dame and NC State will get together tomorrow night. And how about back in December of 2016? Notre Dame's 4th year in the conference, but this game at home in Raleigh belongs to NC State. Dominique Wilson at 18, Maya Spencer at 17, Jennifer Maturin at 11 points and 10 boards. The Wolfpack never trailed and they won at 70-62. Just the second loss at that point in conference play for Notre Dame since joining the conference.
Yeah, and I remember that was very early in the ACC season, so everyone had hope, you know, that after NC State knocked down Notre Dame, that, hey, the Irish definitely were vulnerable, but that's going to be a fun matchup tomorrow. Again, continuing to play for K-Theme throughout this week across the country, but another big one in the ACC. And, you know, I'm just really interested, as I usually am, on the interior matchups, you know, for both teams. You know, I mean, as solid as NC State has been in terms of their rebounding, you think about the likes of Jessica Shepard and Brianna Turner. It's going to be a really fun game to watch. Will it be NC State's defense or Notre Dame's offense that will prevail?
Don't forget, right after us, Virginia and North Carolina. Jen and Kelly standing by with the call. 21.7 seconds to go. And Balagoon has picked up her 5th personal foul. She got to double digits with 10 points. 2 of 6 from three-point distance, 4 rebounds. So she comes out of the game.
And getting back to double figures was big for her. After scoring that 35 points against North Carolina, she struggled some. Definitely struggled at Wake Forest, and they need her to be in a rhythm. Michelle Joseph telling us we still haven't had everyone play well together, but this was a very balanced effort for Tech, and I thought good that Pond found her stroke on the offensive end.
23 points in the game for Francesca Pond and 5 made threes. Balagoon is fouled out with 10 points.
And she managed those 4 fouls for a while.
A couple of free throws for Taylor Emery. She's the leading scorer for the Hokies in this one. .24 points for Emery and 8 of 9 from the free throw line. For Taylor Emery, the senior from Tampa, Florida. When you talk RPI, LaChina, strength of schedule and strength of conference, ACC is the top of that list. And who are the ACC teams? As far as those tournament seeds are concerned, you got Louisville leading the way at number 2.
Yeah, this was the NCAA's first reveal. It's inside the committee, what they're thinking. The selection committee is thinking in terms of those top 16 seeds, which are coveted because the home court advantage that you get getting to host that first and second rounds. And you see Louisville 2, Notre Dame 6 out of the total 16, NC State 8, Miami 16. So that's big, because the ACC has more than any other conference.
6 teams ranked in the top 25 in the ACC.
And that is their true order. So 1 through 16, but the seeds are obviously the 1 through 4 seeds in each region.
Don't forget, we're going to Chapel Hill at the conclusion of our game. The early score and report from Chapel Hill is 6-3. North Carolina has an early lead against Virginia.
Pond gets up limping. Did something holding on to, looks like maybe the left leg.
It's been quite an afternoon for Pond, who banked in 2 3-pointers in the course of this game.
It's just your day. When you're banking in threes, not just 1 but 2, It'll be a good afternoon for you.
And that one hit the rim twice, hit the backboard and dropped for Pawn, who's now just 1 point below her career high. Emery with a three. Georgia Tech wants a timeout. 14.6 seconds to go. Emery's up to 27 points in the game. It's a little bit short of her career high, which is 32.
I'm just a big Taylor Emery fan. Always have been. I mean, she's had some up and down moments this year, but to me, she can score whenever she wants. First 5 minutes of the game, last 5, pressure on the shot. She can shoot the three. She can get to the rim. She's got mid-range. And obviously, this group's a little disappointed with their positioning right now, considering the way that Virginia Tech started this game. Very strong out the gates, but Georgia Tech has really turned it up on the defensive and offensive end.
Virginia Tech led by 3 after the first quarter. Taylor Emery struggled at Duke, just 1 of 5 from three-point distance, despite the fact that the Hokies won that game. She's 3 of 6 from 3 in our game as Pawn gets fouled. Shepard and Baptiste. And they'll give it to Shepard. 13 seconds to go. Georgia Tech trying to put this one away at the free throw line. Francesca Pawn, one more free throw. So she has tied her career high with 26 points after that miss. Final seconds of the ball game. Emery will not get the shot away. Pawn took it away. And Georgia Tech will win it. 76-68. So Georgia Tech gets win number 16 on the season. More women's basketball.